Back to summer. The most intense time of my life that I ever had was the summer before my senior year of high school. And again, like I said, I grew up on a farm in this farm town. And I always felt like I was a real kind of an outcast there, or a misfit, or I didn't fit in or something there. I realize now it was me who made that way. It was really a great place to live. But I always felt like I got to get out of this place. I got to get out of here, man. And I wasn't very social. I didn't really make friends. I never had a girlfriend, anything like that. And when I was about 12, I discovered the guitar and discovered I could play it. And then I just became obsessed with it. And all I did was play guitar. And that's all I thought about. It's all I wanted to do. It just became my whole world. And, I must have gotten on a mailing list for music schools and stuff like that. I was going to say I must have clicked on something. Back in those days, there was nothing to click on. It's hard to remember that world where everything you do isn't being logged, But somehow I got on a mailing list for Berklee School of Music, which was a place I really wanted to go to school. And so I got this mailer in the mail advertising Berklee and Santa Fe. So the Berklee School of Music, which is in Boston, decided for 1 year to do this music camp at St. John's University in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And I signed up for it. My parents paid for it. I was lucky enough they let me go. And they drove me to Denver, and I got on a Greyhound bus with my guitar and my little suitcase and went off to camp. And I didn't know, I was such a hick. I didn't know there were bathrooms on the bus. And it's a long drive from Denver to Santa Fe. And I was in pain by the time we got there. I then learned when I was able to remedy the situation. It was like there was a bathroom back there the whole time. Anyway, most things in life that you build up like this, you get there and they're not as cool as you think they are. But this camp was beyond my expectations. When I got there, it was like Harry Potter showing up at Hogwarts. Every kid there was obsessed with music, like me. Every kid there, all they wanted to do was music. And it was just amazing. And I became Mr. Social there. And I was making friends with everybody. I was talking to everybody. It was just amazing. I was like a different person there. And my guitar teacher had taught me in the Berklee kind of method and had me work in one of their books a lot. So when I got there, I knew how they thought and how they taught. So I auditioned into all the top ensembles. I was the guy. And I had never been the guy before with anything. And it was amazing. And I'm not sure about it when I think about it now. I'm not sure about it. But it seems like I even sort of had a girlfriend kind of thing happening there. I had never had a girlfriend, so I didn't exactly know how that worked. But there was this really cute girl who always was it seemed like she was wherever I was. She was always kind of there. And I think we talked a little bit, but she was just so cool. And I was like, is this what this is? Is this what it feels like when you get a girlfriend? So it was amazing. It was like a different world I was in. And one day I was in class, one of the classes I was taking there, and this lady came to the door and came in and talked to the teacher and said, I need to talk with Jeff Wahl. And he said, well, that's him right there. Jeff, why don't you go see what she has to say. So as we walked down the hall to her office, I was thinking, since everything is so amazing, I bet they've picked me to give me a full ride scholarship to Berklee School. That's what I was thinking. And we lived in dorms there, and I was rehearsing my humble speech to my roommates when I got back. When they found out I got the scholarship, I was like, well, it could have happened to anybody. I really appreciate all you guys' support and everything, I was really rehearsing that. It was crazy. But I thought, why not? Everything else is going so great. So I went in this lady's office, and I sat down, and she said, you need to brace yourself. I thought, okay, this is really good news. This is great. said, like, you really need to brace yourself. Like, I'm not kidding. So I did. And she said, there's been a horrible accident. Your brother is dead. And I yelled at her. I told her she was a liar. I yelled, you're a liar, a bunch of times. When you get news like that, if anyone's ever got that, you go kind of crazy. And I went kind of crazy. But I calmed down, and I went back to my dorm. They said, you got to go back to your dorm, and someone's going to pick you up and take you home. And when I got back to my dorm, one of my roommates was there, and he had heard the grapevine, right? You know, he said, well, I heard you got kicked out, man. Like, did they catch you with drugs or something? And like musicians, young musicians, they would have been cool with that, no judgment. And I said no, and I told him what happened, and he didn't know what to say. When you go through something like this, you kind of become radioactive to people. They don't know what to say, they don't know what to do, and you make them really uncomfortable. And so I went outside, and I was waiting to get picked up. And I remember outside there was a juniper bush. And I was picking berries off the juniper bush and crushing them in my fingers. You know, you just do whatever, right? Just something. And this thought came to my head, and I'm not proud of this thought, but so many thoughts are going through your head. And I said out loud to no one in particular, I said, you just couldn't let me have it, could you? You couldn't let me be happy. You had to do this because you can't allow me to be happy. That's how this world works. I'm not proud of myself for having that thought, but that was my thought at the moment. I think back now, it's ridiculous, but that's where I was at when you were a teenager. So a friend of my family's was a pilot, and he flew all the way to Santa Fe to pick me up, and he flew me home. And I remember thinking in the plane, let's just keep going. Let's not go back there. I don't want to enter this new life I'm going to have now. And when I got back, I think half the town was at that airport to greet me. And if you've grown up in a city and you've never lived in a farm town, in a small farming town, when tragedy happens, the whole town converges on that family. And it was incredible. It was incredible. So there were so many people there, and then someone drove me home, and I think the other half of the town was at our house. And round the clock, people were at our house, and they didn't leave. I remember I slept a lot because I kept thinking, if I wake up, this is not going to be real, you know? And every time I woke up, there were people there. It was amazing. And I think back on it now, and I think, these were the people I thought I needed to get away from. God, I think back on it now, that town, and just how amazing they were. It really, it's something it's strange that it's like that summer never happens now. You would think I would think about it a lot, but I don't. Just recently I was thinking about it, and I remembered I went to that camp, and I hadn't thought about it in 30 years, and I didn't even remember it happened because it was so weird. It kind of got erased from my memory because everything else got so intense. Anyways, I'm really grateful to that town, and I'm sorry I didn't appreciate it when I was younger, but that was an amazing place to grow up, and I'm lucky I grew up there. This song is for that town. This is called Akron, Colorado.